Even if you have braids like Latrell, I got more numbers in my system than Pacific Bell. Pass the basketball around and go tell. Smoother than Rick Fox putting on his hair gel. Oh, here goes, and welcome to episode 44 of Throwback Hoops. Woody V's in the house. Please follow the show on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcasts. You would have just heard me spit some bars from Cool Keith's 2001 record, NBA, where he references the two distinctive hairstyles of Latrell Sprewell and Rick Fox. And as always, I'm joined by my main man, Robbie Clayton. How's things, brother?
Going good, thanks, mate. Always good to hear Rick Fox and Sprewell shout out in the song. And yeah, I think he did have hair gel, didn't he, Rick Fox? But we did mention earlier today, not my favourite song in the world. I reckon he's a bit of a strange dude, that Cool Keith. But yeah, it's a relevant song anyway, so good work for rapping it.
Well, great to have you here, Robbie. And I know Emily, your daughter, said, how come Woody hasn't been rapping on the show for a while, right?
Yeah.
So I had to bring it back, man. I had to bring it back.
Please, yeah.
And look, we're also joined today by a very good friend of Throwback Hoops. We've built a great relationship with her over the last little period, and it's a pleasure to have you as always. Jacinta Govind is in the building. What's up, sister?
Hello, thank you for having me back. Am I one of the first guests to come for 2 episodes of Throwback Hoops? Or has someone beaten me to the privilege?
There's been a couple, not many though, right, Woods? Oh.
Yeah, we've had Matt McQuaid and maybe... Who else is there? There's one more. Jaden Oakley from TikTok. Yeah, so we've had a couple, but yeah.
That's all right. So I'm in good company at least.
Plus coach JackJumpers as well, don't forget him. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But he was an assistant coach when we had him on before and a head coach now. So.
Right. No, but regardless, thanks so much for taking the time today. And you're in Sydney at the moment, yeah?
Yes, I am in Sydney. I arrived today. I say that like I come from interstate, but I only have to go 2 hours south from where I live. I'm in Sydney for the next 10 days just to immerse myself into the FIBA Women's Basketball World Cup that's going to be held at Homebush until October 1st.
Yeah, awesome. Great to have you here, Jacinta, and I'm looking forward to catching up with you while you're in Sydney over the next couple of weeks. Now, tell me something. You're doing a little bit of work here for the Women's World Cup. Do you want to tell the audience a little bit about what it is you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm splitting my time between spectating, obviously, but also some volunteer work with the official FIBA Women's World Cup volunteer team. So my role will be in media operations. It sounds like a high responsibility role, if I'm honest with you. So some of the things we'll be doing is setting up the press conferences for after the games. We'll also be making sure that major media outlets are given the prime opportunity to interview players before and after games as well. There's a mixed media area that is basically from the edge of the court, the tunnel from the edge of the court to the locker room. So we've got to try and facilitate some kind of communication and media outlets and player kind of socialization as well in there. And then the one that I'm kind of really looking forward to is taking the players and the coaches from the locker room to the press conference, because that's a good opportunity to probably meet some of the world's elite athletes and coaches.
Awesome.
Yeah, brilliant. Once in a lifetime opportunity, and it's something that you look back on fondly later. So good work and congrats on the gig. Yeah,
thanks. And I think I'm also invited to a women's forum as well. That will be on the Wednesday the 28th, and a couple of other things I was hoping I'd be able to announce officially this week, but there was a Moulton local champions competition. I got picked as one of 3 people to be a local champion for the World Cup, so that will hopefully involve some other community participation and activities out in the World Cup as well. But I don't have details on it yet, so I guess I'm going to get it soon.
Brilliant that you're getting involved in it. So awesome.
Thank you.
All right, so you come on Throwback Hoops. You got to wear a jersey, right? And I noticed you got a nice, colourful one there. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about what you're rocking today, Squid?
Well, yes, it's probably a bit confusing. I'm wearing a tie-dye shirt underneath, but on top I've got this. The most recent Adelaide Lightning Indigenous Round jersey. So this is the design on the front. And there's a similar design on the back. But the reason why I'm wearing this one is because it's Steph Talbot's jersey. Steph Talbot, playing for Adelaide Lightning last season, the season before, also just wrapped up her WNBA season with the Seattle Storm. But she thankfully made it home in time to start her campaign with the Opals for the World Cup. So I thought, considering the World Cup is starting tomorrow, I thought I'd wear my Steph Talbot jersey. It was a toss-up between my Steph Talbot jersey and my Annalene Maley jersey, but I went with Talbot. So I just want to give a quick recap on this Indigenous design as well. So as a proud members of the Wirangu and Prather people on the west coast of South Australia, the artist's name is Paul Vandenberg and his daughter Hunter. So they were behind the jersey design. And the piece is titled Wanagara, which means lightning in their language and represents elements including the history, the land, the club, and the people that make up the South Australian community. So if anyone out there wants a little bit more information about the designs for those WNBL Indigenous round jerseys, you can head to the WNBL website and it's all there.
Brilliant, Squin. Thanks for that. Really appreciate it. And Robbie, I know you got your double jerseys there today, and we'll be getting into a little bit of Perth Wildcats chat. So I see one sitting there behind you. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about what you got today?
Do you know who that one is behind me, Woods? I know you're not great with numbers. Everywhere he played, he won. That's my clue.
Oh, Casey Prather.
Correct. All right. Yeah. So look, as I've sort of been doing the last few weeks, I'm doing the NBL NBA jersey double. So I thought, given, as you said, Woods, we're talking about the Wildcats today, so I thought I'd hang the Casey Prather jersey behind me. So it's a Mitchell and Ness Wildcats red home jersey. Look, just a little bit on Prather there. So he was with the Wildcats for 2 seasons, and in true Wildcats fashion, they won the title in both of those years. He then moved to Melbourne United, and they also won the title the next year. So certainly, the rare NBL three-peat that he got there. Look, he's been playing in Israel the last few years, and Casey Prather, definitely one of those Wildcats I'll always remember, quite fondly, including a poster dunk he did on friend of the show, AJ Ogilvy. So sorry about that, AJ. At home versus the Hawks, which was just a huge dunk. Yeah, one of the biggest dunks in the last few years. So a bit of a shout out to Casey Prather. Look, in terms of the one I'm wearing today, no real reason. I guess I've just got to open the cupboard sometimes, Woods, and pick one in there that looks pretty cool. So I reckon this is one you haven't seen before, right? So I'll stand up.
Showing off now. You're showing off.
I reckon I probably am. Right, I'll stand up and show you this one first, right?
All right. My man, White Rob, is wearing a Houston number 11 Yao Ming jersey. Dope, man. I like it.
You haven't seen that one before, have you?
No, and with an international flavour on this episode, the World Cup coming up, a man that's actually given a lot to Chinese basketball. It's fitting that you're wearing it, man. I love it. Yeah.
Definitely. So look, this one's Houston Rockets, one of those Nike Rewind jerseys, Would. So I love those old Nike ones. It's really good material, really good fit on these ones. Look, a little bit about Yao. 8 seasons in the NBA after getting drafted out of China at pick 1 in 2002 by Houston. Didn't really have a long career due to his injuries, but he certainly achieved a lot in that time he was healthy. So his accolades, in 8 seasons, he was an all-star starter in every season, which I don't think that'll probably be beaten anytime fast. 5-time All-NBA team player. He's also in the Hall of Fame. And this number 11 is actually now retired by the Houston Rockets. Of course, Yao had such an impact worldwide. He's still a household name across the world today. And I'm sure a lot of people can remember those memes as well with the Yao face that were popular a few years ago, with that laughing sort of face that he's got. Anyway, so look, no bobbleheads again this week, guys. So I do apologise. It's been a few weeks now, but I'll make sure I get one and rectify that on next week's show there, Woods. So that's me. So why don't you take it away? I think you're wearing one of those horrible Sydney Kings jerseys again, but why don't you tell everyone who you're wearing?
Yeah, for sure. Before I do that, really sad about Yao getting injured. He would have gone on to have an amazing career, but injuries cut that career a bit short, right?
You remember that game against Shaq, right? The Lakers against Rockets. It was just must. I remember I just moved out of home at the time. It was a Saturday, I believe, on ESPN, and watched it. And you got to say, probably Yao outplayed him in that first game. It was just amazing seeing 2 guys that big just doing what they were doing on the court.
Well, Shaq's even come out and said it. He's one of the greatest competitors I went up against in his career. So that's big praise coming from the big man, the Deagle, right? All right. Why don't you tell everyone what I got? Yeah.
Sure. So Woody's standing up, wearing a nice one. It's not too bad, like I said, but it's actually a retro Steve Carfino Sydney Kings jersey. So shout out to Mr. Magic, Steve Carfino. Yeah, liking that one, Woods.
Shout out to our friends from the Throwback Store.
This
Kings range of jerseys. Hey, hit us back, man. Hit us back, Throwback Store, right?
Yeah, we're waiting to hear back, guys.
All right, so I'll just talk about him really quickly. Steve Carfino, Mr. Magic as they call him. He had a pretty good 4-year college career at the University of Iowa. And then he was selected in the 1984 NBA draft. Check this out, guys. 139th pick in the 6th round by the Boston Celtics, right? Back then they had a lot of rounds, right? How many rounds did they have? I think 9 rounds, 10 rounds? I can't remember, but yeah, they had a lot of picks back in the day. He never actually suited up for the Celtics and retired for a year to run a sports store in Iowa until the Hobart Tassie Devils came calling, right? And he played for them between 86 and 88, where he really made his mark as a pro. He made the All NBL first team in 1986 and 87 before joining the Sydney Kings between 88 and 91. And he retired at the young age of 29 due to ongoing back problems. You know, another guy whose career got cut short.
Hey, Woods, I was actually at the game that did his career, early 90s. Yep. He slipped on a court decal, and I believe that's where all his injury problems
started. Entertainment Center, right? Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
Yep. But, you know, it wasn't all doom and gloom because he did make that transition into the media, which was... he was very successful in doing that. He was a great television commentator for the NBL, and he also hosted programs, not just basketball on Fox and whatnot. And who can ever forget Bill Woods and Steve Carfino together? That was a thing of beauty, right? It takes me back to my childhood. I'm sure you remember.
Definitely.
Yeah, and look, he's called Sydney's home. He's never left. He's never gone back to Iowa. He's raised his family here, and you'll often see him at Sydney Kings game. He's even sung the national anthem at a couple of games we've been at, Robbie, right? When they couldn't find anyone to sing. He's got a great voice.
He does. He's not too bad, is he?
Man of many talents. And I don't know, have you guys seen the new Next Level documentary, the NBL one that come out, the 6-part series?
Not yet.
I've watched 2 of them, I believe. I think I've watched the Perth and the Sydney ones, actually.
Yeah.
But I didn't quite know if there was an order to watch those, so I just kind of just randomly started watching them.
No, watch it in order,
Well, what's the order, though? So it's like...
1 to 6, right?
Okay, it's just recorded on my Fox and it doesn't show episode 1, it's just in this weird order, but anyway, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, I need to catch up. There's so many things that have come out at the same time. So that's come out at the same time as the Sideline documentary about the Melbourne Boomers WNBL team last year. And then the Opals are due to debut a new documentary as well. We were supposed to go to an event to launch that last week. Yep. Unfortunately, it was cancelled. So I would have loved to have come on and tell you all about it, but I didn't end up watching it. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be premiere on ESPN tomorrow night.
Oh, sick.
I think either tomorrow night or Friday night.
That's the Boomers one or the Opals one?
No, sorry. So the Boomers one started on Sunday on SBS Viceland, so you can catch up on SBS on demand.
Awesome. Yeah.
A lot of themes coming out of that about gender equality and female equality in sport and what it's really like inside for a female athlete in the league. But the Opals one, I think, is going to come out tomorrow, the 22nd.
Brilliant. Yeah. That's on ESPN, yeah?
Yeah, that should be on ESPN as well.
Hey, some good content to watch. So, yeah, going back, Steve Carfino was featured in that documentary. So, someone who's faded out of the limelight, isn't in the media so much. It was nice to see his face and reflect on some things. So, just before I move on, he was inducted into the NBL Hall of Fame in 2004. And in 2013, he was announced as part of the Sydney Kings 25th anniversary team. So, he's done a lot of service for Sydney basketball, and proud to wear this jersey. All right, let's move on. So I guess I wanted to ask you guys, have you been paying any attention to the NBL preseason, the Blitz at all?
Yeah, I'll take it away. So, look, as you know, Woods, I finally got some decent internet connection in about the last month, thanks to a Google Mesh Wi-Fi system. So
you two and your internet, man.
A little bit of a free plug for them. So now I leave your internet for dead, as we saw, one saw at the end of last week's show.
All right.
Go to Matt. All right, so look, I've been watching a few of the games, Woods, probably not as many as I'd like. Probably one thing that stood out to me in the limited games I've watched is just the quality of imports this year. Look, it's always pretty good. Obviously, we know that each team's allowed 3 imports these days, but there is some real quality out there this year. A lot of new imports. There's not a lot of sort of imports returning back to their teams they were with last year. Only really a handful, but some great names there. I'm really excited to see how some of these guys go about it in the season.
Screen.
Yeah, no, so I am similar to Robbie. I've only watched limited amounts as well of the Blitz, given that I'm trying to get my mind around the World Cup, and there's a lot of basketball going on at the moment, already. And of course, WNBA just finished as well, and I didn't manage to catch much of that. But the parts of the Blitz that I've seen, Like, I really like the idea of the Blitz where it's, focused on preseason. There's not a lot of pressure on teams to perform at their absolute best just yet, but it's a really good opportunity for teams just to get a taste of, like proper match practice rather than just scrimmaging against each other or scrimmaging against a bunch of, uni kids or something. So that's what I really like about the Blitz. But yeah, like Robbie said, lots of imports. Some of them look really, really good. We'll get into the JackJumpers a bit later. But I think as much as I like having so many imports coming to the NBL and using this as a potential launch pad for their career in the NBA or even a better team in the EuroLeague, I think the worry for me is just the ongoing cycle of imports season to season. It's going to cause a lot of instability in clubs in the long term. But look, who knows? Who knows what will happen in terms of that? But that's the one thing that pops to my mind when I watch the Blitz.
Yep, well said. And I think with the NBL looking at expansion, moving into Darwin, potentially, having the Blitz there and seeing the great numbers come out and support the game at the top end there it's been good. So, terrific. All right, so we're going to get into a couple of team previews today. I'm going to throw over to you, Robbie, and you can take us through the Wildcats, and Squin is going to talk us through the JJ's or Wildcats number 2, let's call it, right? So maybe I'll kick it off with you. Just give me a sec.
No, I've been looking forward to do this one. Woods want a bit of redemption as a lifelong Wildcats fan after last season. So, look, I guess just a little bit on Perth from last year. So, as we all know by now, it was the end of an era with the playoff streak being broken. We had a coach and some players that probably didn't quite fit in into that Perth system as we maybe expected. They still managed a 16-12 record, which is, I guess, somewhat surprising there. Still, 4 games over 50% there. Strangely, they had a better road record than home record. So they were 9-5 away and 7-7 at home. So I think that's probably the only season in history that's happened, and I don't expect it to happen again. So I think that was a real anomaly there for me, just that home record there. Look, obviously you've got the rosters up there, Wood. So I'll just quickly go through those. So obviously we've got new head coach John Riley, which I'm really excited about. I'll just go through the new players basically. So we've got 2 new imports coming in, Brady Manick and Tayshaun Thomas. So expecting big things out of those guys. A name familiar for NBL fans in Corey Webster. We've got a couple of DP players in Michael Harris and Jack Andrew just rounding out that roster there. So, look, the depth chart at this stage, we're looking like Mitch Norton and Kyle Zunich at the point guard slot. So 2 pretty handy players there. I think Kyle Zunich is in for an improved season.
Yep.
Completing the backcourt, we've got Bryce Cotton and Corey Webster and Harris. So, again, some good sort of service and cover there for Cotton. The forwards, we've got Blanchfield Travers, Corey Sherville, Brady Manick, the veteran Jesse Wagstaff back again as captain this year. And then a bit more depth at centre this year as well with Thomas, Majok, and then Ollie Hayes-Brown sort of rounding out that 3-headed sort of centre system there. So, look, I think Bryce Cotton said it yesterday or the day before during the Blitz that he feels it's a lot more well-rounded roster than last season. And I totally agree, actually. I think there's a good sort of mix. I don't think you can look at any of those positions there and say, I think that's a bit of a worry in that position. I think we're pretty strong throughout there. I mean, look, you could maybe say power forward if Jesse Wagstaff's the backup at his age, but, I don't see any reason why, Thomas or Majok, if need be, could play a bit of 4 as well. So, yeah, I'm pretty optimistic, Woods. I was hardly going to be one that was going to come in and expect bad things, but I like what I'm seeing from John Riley so far at the Blitz. Got a lot of passion. Not sure he's making many friends straight away with some of the refs there, but I think he's going to be a players coach there. I think the players are really going to enjoy playing his style of basketball there. Probably a little bit early to comment on the imports, isn't it? I mean, Tayshaun Thomas has barely played. I know the Wildcats are in action. We're just recording this on Wednesday, the 21st of September, so they're in action actually now. So I'm going to try and catch that later on KO. So hopefully he'll settle in well. Look, Brady Manick's been solid so far. Hasn't sort of been too amazing. His shot struggled a little bit, but I think he'll settle in okay. But that's probably my take on the Wildcats there, Woods. Optimistic about this season.
Hey, Bryce Cotton signalled his intentions with that 36-point game in the first game of the Blitz. He's back. He's got a bit of a chip on his shoulders after the team not making the playoffs last year. So I think he's got a point to prove.
He looked amazing in that game. He sort of had a funny season last year. I don't know that his stats look like they dipped a whole lot from years past, but he just didn't seem to have that same impact perhaps in the second half of the season. He was a little bit inconsistent. His turnovers seemed a bit more higher than normal. But, yeah, he looked great in that Blitz game there, and I'm sure he's raring to go. don't even ask me about the naturalisation thing, Woods. Honestly, what an absolute joke. It's a joke, honestly. Someone that's over there and, painting, Perth in such a good light like he is, good member of the community and everything else like that. I don't know what the story is, seriously. I actually, the other day, thought about ringing up the West Australian or the Perth consulate there just as a question, just as if someone was to, apply for citizenship there, how long would it normally take? Because I'd just love to know what the answer is there. Does it, is it a 6-month process? Is it a 6-year process? Because it seems like it's leaning more towards 6 years. But anyway, I spoke longer about the citizenship than I wanted to, but yep, that's the Wildcats wrap from there.
Yeah, I guess finally Luke Travers, man, he's also just been drafted into the NBA. He's been stashed here by the Cavs. He's a breakout candidate this year for sure, right?
I reckon he's a sneaky defensive player of the year candidate this year. Look, I think we saw it in those summer league games. He could play 12 minutes a game and get 3 steals and 3 blocks or something in that time. So I think he's going to come back. He's definitely put a little bit of work into his body. So I think he's going to come back, obviously, a better player than he finished last year. But I'm quite excited about that. I can see you've got Blanchard in front of him on the depth chart, Woods. I'm not too sure about that. I think he'll definitely be starting and playing the lion's share of minutes at small forward. But, yeah, very much looking forward to Luke Travers. I think everyone just focused on will he improve his shot sort of last year, and that was all we sort of heard about sort of thing. Look, he hasn't improved it a whole lot, but every other part of his game's improved. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a good one. And I think for Wildcats fans, just make the most of having our Luke on the team.
Yeah, terrific. Well said, man. So, fantasy stud and fantasy sleeper. I know we've just asked Quinn to join the podcasters fantasy league, right? She hasn't joined yet, has she, Robbie?
No, so we've got 3 spots left actually. So I'm holding one for Jacinta, Stu from the Sports Blokes, and of course our man Liam Santa Maria. So yeah, we want to get all 3 of those on. That'll lock up the 10-team comp. But look, in terms of the stud Woods, probably not going to be much of a shock by saying Bryce Cotton, right? Consistently he's one of the highest scoring players in fantasy and also one of the most expensive players there. I'm going to give you 2 names for a sleeper there. So I did mention him very briefly. So Kyle Zunic. I like this guy. I think if Mitch Norton was to get one of his injuries, it does happen quite often. I'm pretty confident Zunic can step in this year and sort of fill in that gap pretty well. So he'd be one. Probably the other one would be Corey Webster as well. We've seen this guy have a lot of success in the past in the NBL. Probably not someone that's going to put up a lot of stats per se on your team. He's a bit of a scorer first and second sort of thing. But look, I think he'll definitely put up numbers probably in limited minutes. So yeah, they'd be my 2 for the sleeper.
I'll agree with that. Thanks, Robbie. All right, why don't we move on to the JackJumpers? Quinn, you had a chance to check out the roster and whatnot?
Yeah, I did actually. I tried to do a little bit of research, especially around the new imports. So I'll go through the roster too in a similar fashion as Robbie did, as you like. So thankfully, Scott Roth is the head coach, is coming back. I mean, the guy is an instant legend. He instills such a positive culture into the JackJumpers and into the Tasmanian community that, if they have another successful season like they did last year, they've got to be putting up a statue of him in the middle of Hobart, right? Like
he's a big statue, Jacinta.
Yeah, that's fine. I will fund half of it. He is just such a genuine guy. I'm not too sure if you've listened to many podcasts or interviews with Scott Roth over the last 12 months. He's not just someone who says the right things. You can tell he's someone who means what he says as well. So to have someone like that that's so invested in having a positive culture in a brand new club, I think was such a sound move by the JackJumpers. So definitely setting up a new franchise for a really positive future because, us especially in an Australian basketball landscape, we see a lot of teams in the NBL and WNBL come and go so quickly. And as much as we want our leagues to expand, it always seems like such a high risk. So I think having someone like Roth at the helm is a really positive move. But we've got Josh Majette back. I'll circle back to that. Magne, hopefully we'll see Magne a bit more on the court this year after having the plighted with injuries last season. Jack McVeigh, Clint Steindl, Fabian Krislovich, Matt Kenyon, the boy from the Central Coast, Matt Kenyon, represent. Sam McDaniel, Jared Weeks, Jared Bairstow, Sean McDonald, still as DP. Really happy that Sean McDonald has stayed on as DP as well. I remember seeing him at under 20s nationals a couple of years ago when it was hosted in Terrigal. And sometimes you can just tell when kids have got it, and yeah, Sean McDonald's got it. I really hope he stays in the NBL for a long time.
Hey, he's been filling it up in the Blitz, man. He had 4 threes the other night in one half, so yeah.
Yeah, you got to keep him around. And we've seen kids like Sean McDonald, the likes of Emmett Ma, Isaac White we'll touch on as well, Dan Greeder, like that generation. It's been really great that they've been able to pick up and stay around the NBL, with the exception of Emmett Na. Unfortunately, we lost him, but I'll get over it one day. And then the new additions to the JackJumpers roster: Milton Doyle, Rashad Kelly, Isaac White, who's been signed as an injury replacement. So still not a full contract, but I'm just glad that he's still sticking around in the league. Tristan Forsyth has gone from Southeast Melbourne Phoenix down to the JJs. Josh Tomasi and Walter Brown. So I recently read up as well, Walter Brown, the DP from New Zealand. I don't know much about him, to be honest, but I'm pretty keen to see how much he can grow in the next season as a DP. And I'm under the impression that Tomasi went to the open DP trials for the JJs, and that's how he picked up that roster spot. So, good on him.
There was 20, 25 people at those
It would have
trials?
been heaps of people. To be the one picked out of a group of 20, 25 people is outstanding. So that's really, really, I love seeing that stuff. So point guard, we've got Majette, Weeks, McDonald. I wonder when we look at it, that lineup in that way, Weeks has been playing for a long time, obviously. Plays his role really, really well, packs a punch off the bench. I wonder if we'll see McDonald creep in and take a few more of Weeks' minutes next season.
Yep.
Shooting guard, we've got Doyle, Kenyon, White, and Brown. Now, Matt Kenyon, if you ever listen to this, it says shooting guard. Please shoot the ball a little bit more.
Yeah.
Please.
Definitely.
Please.
Definitely.
Even when I watched the highlights of the JackJumpers and the Kings, there were times when I'm like, shoot the ball, Kenyon. You're wide open. So I doubt he'll ever see this, so I feel like I can say it. Small forward, we've got Kelly, McDaniel, and Steindl. And McDaniel coming off an outstanding NBL1 South season with the Hobart Chargers and a spot in some of the Boomers qualifying games. So I hope he can maintain that momentum and transfer it into the JJs next season. Then we've got McVeigh at power forward and Bairstow, Centre, Krislovich, Forsyth, Tomasi, and Magnay. Magnay still listed as injured, though, on your list here, Woody.
Yep. He is still injured.
He is still injured, so...
No one knows. Indefinite his return is, right?
That's a damn shame. But I am hoping someone like with Magnay still injured, and you've got Krislovich, Forsyth, Tomasi, still 3 relatively new and emerging talents in that centre spot, and comparing last season with the prospect of next season for the JJs, I hope that they have a little bit more oomph inside this time. I think their big game was really lacking last season, and that was probably their weak spot that they was exploited. But I really hope that someone like I hope Rashad Kelly can pick up and cover the centre for a little bit, because I had a look at some of his footage on Rashad Kelly. He's played a lot in Europe. Lots of big dunks in his highlights. Lots of big dunks. He seems like quite a monster inside. He's 6'7" and he's only 27, so he's got lots of playing days ahead of him. I feel like with his stature as well, he could probably slip into the centre, even though he'd be typically undersized, even for the NBL. But I feel like he can have a big presence, especially now with Magnay out. So I think he'll probably have to bump up into that centre position. But he's got really good footwork. He's really mobile. Yep. He's always in the right spots at the right time. And I think if he works well with the likes of, even Weeks and McDonald, if they're going to look for him on the inside, being, past first point guards, I think that could work
and
really, really well.
And as well, right? Yeah.
Now, Majette. Majette and Adams were not my favourite players last year, to be honest. Now Milton Doyle's coming. I feel like Milton Doyle's role is going to be replacing what we lost with Josh Adams. But for me, Josh Adams, I didn't. His playing style wasn't my preference. To be honest, he to me reads as someone as a little bit too risky, too flashy. I felt like, especially at the start of the season, there was this power struggle between Majette and Josh Adams, where Josh Adams really tried very hard to assert himself as the scorer in the team. Rather than letting the game come to him, he was forcing up a lot of stuff. And to his credit, a lot of that stuff that he forced up in the final series was going his way. some of those shots that he was
Yep.
making in the finals against United and even the Kings. And that for me is just that's not the type of basketball I like. So when he wasn't returning, I wasn't upset about it. And Majet, no more car park threes, mate. Just take it out of your game.
He loves it. He loves
Oh,
it.
he loves the car park three. I think that's what put me off him, especially when the JJ started last season. I'm like, who is this guy with these bling and gold shoes shooting from the car park? It's not his range, but he did a pretty good job of getting everyone organised.
Yeah,
but I hope that
definitely.
he can just focus on steering the ship, being a true PG in that sense of getting everyone organised, knowing when to change the tempo of the offense, and just take those car park threes out of your game. But yeah, Milton Doyle, G League experience in Europe, good handles, can shoot from anywhere. Obviously the replacement for Adams, but I feel like when Scott Roth was recruiting imports this time, he would have been looking at the person off court as well, being a big culture guy. So I'm hoping that both Kelly and Doyle are able to slot in to the JJ's roster pretty easy. And because they've both got a lot of experience playing in Europe, I hope those playing styles will be a little bit more transferable than going from the American playing style to the Aussie playing style. So I'm really looking forward to see how this dynamic plays out next season, to be honest.
Yep. And yeah, what you said about Milton Doyle's right on. He's been a winner all over the world, played in a variety of different environments. So Scott Roth looked at that. What's this guy gonna bring off the court, not just on the court, and hopefully that camaraderie in that team is good. And with Majet, I agree with you. Maybe he should get rid of the car park threes, but he does set the table very well. And he does manage to lead that team. I know Robbie's a huge fan of our ex-Atlanta Hawk, Josh Majet, right, Robbie?
Definitely. Yeah. No, hopefully he'll be a bit more settled. But I definitely agree with what Jacinta said about Adams. I think a lot of people saw the way he finished the year and like, oh, he's such a good player. But he was throwing up a lot of crap in the first half of the year, wasn't he? That wasn't going in. So, yeah, people sometimes have short memories and remember how he looked in the finals and don't remember how he played the rest of the season.
Yeah, and to me, sometimes that reads a little bit NBA, a little bit junkyard basketball of just going for the flashy things and the huge elevations in a corner three. And I think what I like about Milton Doyle compared to Josh Adams as well is his decision making. Milton Doyle's decision making seems to be a lot more sound and team focused than Adams.
Definitely. Definitely. Okay, one more question I got for you guys. I know you said, Rashad Kelly 6'7", Fabian Krislovic is also 6'7", right? With Magne out and not having that much size in the middle, there's one name I want to throw out at you, Nathan Jawai, right? He doesn't have a team yet, right? He's a veteran, right? Played a little bit in the NBL1 in the off season, right? Now, I'm just looking at this roster, and if Magne's out for an extended period of time, wouldn't it be a fit to bring in someone like Nathan Jawai as an injury replacement to give them some size in the middle? I mean, and they play the slower style of basketball, so he probably could fit into that Scott Roth system a bit better than somewhere else, right?
Good call, I reckon. I mean, yeah, that's definitely the weak spot, isn't it? I mean, it stands out really clearly on that depth chart, the centre position there. And, yeah, like you said, the word indefinite is never a good thing next to Will Magne's name. So, yeah, not the worst suggestion, Woods.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. And I mean, someone like Kelly and Jawai maybe has potential to work well off each other if they were paired as a 4-5 at the same time.
Yeah.
You've got the one big body for the rim protection, and I mean, Kelly can do the rim protection as well, but he's a lot more athletic, and perhaps having Jawai and Kelly at the same time would provide Kelly a bit more opportunity to pick up some scraps on the O board while everyone's focusing on boxing out Jawai. So.
Yep.
Yeah, why not? Should we just send Scott Roth an email with our suggestions?
Yeah, we should go add Scott Roth. Is he on Twitter? Maybe we'll hit him up on Twitter after this.
Maybe.
All right, awesome. So I know you're joining the fantasy league this year, Squin. So give me your fantasy stud and your fantasy sleeper. So stud, a guy that you got to have in your roster. A sleeper, maybe a guy that not many people think about, but he's going to be someone you might get for cheap, and he can contribute to your team.
From this roster in particular, from
exactly.
the JJs?
From the JJs specifically.
I'm going to go, studs, that's tough. Especially, I'm going to go on a limb and say stud is Doyle. Just based on the footage that I've seen and the role I'm predicting him to play for the JJs, I think the stud is going to be Doyle.
Fair call, yeah.
And then a dud is... Did you say dud?
No. Sleeper.
Sleeper. Yeah, not dud.
Yeah.
A sleeper. I'm going to say, based on the momentum of the last 12 months for this guy, I'm going to say McDaniel is a sleeper.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
like that. I like
Yeah.
that. I like
Yes.
that.
Still fresh to the NBL, but he's definitely on an upward trajectory to do some big things next season.
Awesome. And as I said last year, great to see that McDaniel jersey on the back of a Tasmanian singlet, man. So, following in his father's footsteps, right? So, terrific. Okay, thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. We've done 6 teams now, or 8 teams now, Robbie, I think. So, next week we're going to do our two Melbourne teams just in time for the regular season to start. So, good timing. And thanks, Spin, for your contributions today. And I'm going to ask a little bit more from you because we didn't bring you here to give us NBL previews, did we?
No, you definitely did not. But I think so far I've held my own okay.
You have held your own beautifully. So I think you did a better job than Robbie. Yeah. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, I think my job might be in danger, mate.
I crammed like an exam.
Thanks, both of you. Really good work. Appreciate it. So what I've done is brought up the 2 groups in front of us. So I'll just quickly go through them. In the first group, we got Belgium, China. Is that Bosnia and Herzegovina? Yeah. We'll just call it Bosnia. Puerto Rico, Korea, and USA. In the second group, we got France, Serbia, Japan, Mali, Canada, and Australia. So before we get into it, do you want to just tell us a little bit about the format? So is it the top 4 from each group, and how does that all work?
Yeah, so at this stage, it will be the top 4 of each group that will go through to the quarterfinals. Pretty confident that the quarterfinals will be played on the Friday. I think it's the Friday. Hold on, I've got my app. I highly recommend as well, if you're planning to go to the World Cup or you just need some basic information about the World Cup, when games are on, how it's all going to run. There's an official FIBA World Cup app, and it's actually really simple to use. The interface is really, really nice. You'll be able to see what game is on every day. And so Thursday the 29th is scheduled for the quarterfinals. So the top 4 will go and play Thursday the 29th, the quarterfinals. And I'm pretty sure it's a basic crossover of 1 from Group A will play 4 from Group B. And 2 and 3 will cross over across the groups as well. But Group B has already been nicknamed the Death Group, as you can see from that lineup there, where Australia is sitting pretty in the Death Group. So it's a bit of a worry.
Hey, Jacinta, is there a standout worst team there for you? I'm just looking through that. I mean, I'd only be guessing. Is there one that you think might really struggle to win a game in either of the pools there?
I would say it's hard without sounding mean, but Puerto Rico in Group A will probably struggle. I think I'm expecting Korea to finish 5th and Puerto Rico to finish 6th in Group A. In Group B, I'm expecting Mali to finish 6th, unfortunately, in Group B. But whoever's going to be 5th in Group B is going to be very, very tight between France, Serbia, Japan, Canada, Australia. None of them, on paper, you would expect to come 5th in a group at all. So that's really, really unexpected. But yeah, I'm expecting Puerto Rico and Mali probably to struggle the most. I don't expect them to perhaps win any games, but I mean, Puerto Rico might turn up and beat Korea. Korea can be a little bit up and down in their consistency, as we saw in the Asia Cup qualifiers earlier this year around February. So if there's a game for Puerto Rico to get, it's against Korea. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess in that first group right there, I mean, Belgium's one team that have done really well of late, right? And they're someone people aren't speaking about that much. But I mean, tell us a little bit about this Belgian team, who to look out for, and what kind of impact they can have on this tournament.
Yeah, so Belgium have really come up in the ranks, especially in the last 2 years. So their main players would be Alemand and Messerman, who have both been playing in the WNBA for some time now. One being a guard, one being a power forward and a centre. So to Belgium's advantage, they've had a really, really good Tokyo Olympics campaign last year. They've probably maintained most of the roster as well from that Olympics. And I'm pretty sure just before the Olympics, they played their European Cup and, played some really great games against the likes of Spain and etc. And that got them here at a place at the World Cup. And also to their advantage, they play the USA first, and there is a high chance that, at least 3 players from the USA
Yeah.
roster won't be playing that first game against Belgium.
Mm.
So USA are likely to be missing Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum, and Asia Wilson as they keep celebrating their WNBA championship with the Las Vegas Aces. And look, credit to them. Winning a championship of that magnitude is worth celebrating as long as you can. It's just that unfortunate timing of the WNBA season and the FIBA World Cup. Even though, the WNBA knew the FIBA World Cup, they knew the dates. We've known the dates for at least 2 years. So just the timing of it's really unfortunate. So Belgium could really get in and sneak a win over the US and finish number 1 on Group B, which would easily see them in the semi-finals, and they're setting themselves up really nicely for a podium finish.
Yeah, that's terrific. And I know you mentioned the timing of the WNBA finals in relation to this, and I listened to one of your most recent podcasts with Timsy on there, and she was waxing lyrical about how this needs to be changed, right? And the thing is, international play doesn't mean as much to the Americans as it does to the rest of the world, right? Their NBA, WNBA, that sits on a pedestal, right? And for them, it's a very little concern to them, and I think that's the reason why it's being done like this, right? Like, it's unfortunate, but that's just Americans' attitude towards international play, I feel, right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's definitely the other way around in America compared to our perspective over here
Yep.
of playing for your national team, making an Olympics, making a World Cup, and yeah, that just comes off as second best in America, unfortunately. Which is still so surprising because
Yep.
even the likes of DT and Sue Bird, they're not here for the World Cup, and I know that Sue Bird just technically retired, but I mean, girl, from your last game with Seattle, it's only a few weeks until the World Cup, and you would have a really good chance of getting another gold medal to your already, huge line of accolades. Like, why not just come for a 2-week holiday in
Hey,
Australia?
Jacinta, how good was that shot that she hit in that semi-final for Seattle to force overtime as well? That game, that was amazing.
Oh man, I mean, if anyone was going to do it, it was Sue Bird, right?
Absolutely.
And it was just a pinnacle considering we knew that she was retiring and she's such a legend, and to hit that shot at that point in the game was like, that's, got to be one of the top 5 highlights of her career.
Hey, Jacinta, I wanted to ask as well, I heard you mention obviously Spain earlier. Are there any other sort of big name countries that haven't qualified here? I mean, I'm assuming Spain would be one. Is there any other sort of countries that stand out possibly?
Yeah, definitely Spain. That was very surprising. Even when so Puerto Rico actually they didn't qualify, but they ended up getting in because Nigeria had to pull out. So that spot in Group A is supposed to be Nigeria. They've got a lot of kind of political conflict between their government and their basketball body and all this kind of stuff going on, and so they pulled them out. So Puerto Rico came in, and I was actually hoping that I'm not too sure how it worked of how Puerto Rico found their way here, but I was actually hoping Spain was going to take that spot because they're a basketball powerhouse. Their juniors coming up as well in both the men and women are going to be outstanding when they get to the senior level. So it's really disappointing Spain's not here. Italy is someone that, as when I was growing up, is someone I would expect always to be in the ranks of going to a World Cup as well, but I'm not too sure what's happening with their basketball program at the moment because their juniors are also lacking a little bit, whereas, I'm seeing Spain and France and the juniors putting a lot of investment into basketball. But yeah, perhaps Italy. I would say it's probably mostly Spain, and I'm just trying to think of some other European countries off the top of my head, but I mean, that's the one that really, really stands out.
No, good answer. Thanks.
Yeah, and I guess international tournaments like this are coming out party for players, both in men's and women's basketball. People make a name for themselves and get noticed, right? So tell me, who are some names that we should look out for during this tournament that we might not have seen or heard of in the past, right?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So playing for Bosnia, and I've practiced this. I'm going to get it right. Bosnia Herzegovina.
Oh, you got it right. Yeah.
Yes. Jonquel Jones is playing for Bosnia Herzegovina. She's just been lighting it up in the WNBA the last 2 years for the Connecticut Suns. Obviously just finished the final series against Las Vegas Aces. So she's already here. I think she landed in Sydney today. And I think it's one of the first time in a very long time that Bosnia-Herzegovina have featured at the World Cup, if ever. So, yeah, I will definitely be getting a seat to see Jonquel Jones play for them in action as well. So she's going to be the real anchor for that team. But I think that's someone that a lot of people probably don't know a lot about, unless you follow the WNBA closely. I don't think a lot of Australian basketball fans or just kind of women's basketball fans in general would really think to have their eyes on Jonquel Jones. Another really interesting one that I learnt today who's coming is playing for Mali, and her last name is, hold on, I wrote it down, and I want to make sure that I try and make sure I say it right. It's Maimouna Haidara from Mali. She's only like 18 years old.
Yeah.
And she's playing for her national team. So she came to my attention when I was commentating the under-18 Women's Africa FIBA qualifiers. So she's recently just played. So she played the under-17 World Cup in July. Then she played the under-18 FIBA Africa Women's World Cup qualifier for next year in August. So now she's here with the senior women's team for Mali in September. And she's definitely one to look out for in the future. She's really long. She's quick. She's a drive-first guard. She's really great on the offensive rebound. So that's someone I'm going to be really interested in watching to see how she goes at this kind of big world stage. But also Johannes from France. Everyone was really looking forward to seeing her after she had a great season for the New York Liberty. But unfortunately, she's injured now with a thigh injury. Which has, broken a lot of hearts in the last couple of days. I also had Yvonne Anderson from Serbia on the list. She's a 5'9" point guard who has dual citizenship between America and Serbia, but she's been playing in Europe a lot, and she's someone who can shoot from anywhere. So she can take you on the pick and roll and a three. She can drive all the way to the basket and take on the center and be able to finish. And she's also going to be a real anchor for that Serbian team as the point guard. So they're probably the first couple, but the one person that a lot of my friends have messaged me and said, if you meet her, please give her my number. What this person is going to do with your number, guys, I don't know. But it's Sabrina Ionescu.
Mm.
So
New York Liberty star, right?
Yes, a huge season for the New York Liberty last season. And obviously Coach Sandy Brondello for the Opals is going to know how she plays very, very well.
Yeah.
But so a lot of people is excited to see her in the flesh. My understanding is that it's her first World Cup. I'm pretty sure ever, or at least as a senior.
Yep.
When I was trying to find out, I fact checked that this afternoon. The only other Team USA reference I could find was that she played some 3-on-3. But otherwise, this is going to be it's going to be a big tournament for Sabrina, I think.
Oh, brilliant.
But that's a lot of people, but I feel like a good spectrum of people to look out for.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for that, Squin. So just before we move on, I want to talk about the Opals, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, tell us about what do you think? I mean, what are their chances? What kind of impact is someone like Lauren Jackson going to have on that squad? Talk to us.
Yeah, no, I'm expecting the Opals for a podium finish as well. I honestly feel like if they can really synchronize well on the defensive front, their defense at Tokyo Olympics was definitely not their best. That was the biggest letdown. So I feel like, if they're going to be defensive focused first, which I've heard that is their focus for the tournament, is to be a defensive first team, that I really hope that I really believe that they can get a podium finish. They're going to have a really, really tough group, but if they can make it through that group, all they've got to do is finish top 4, and I'm really confident that they can do that, and then they can work their way up to at least the semi-finals. I reckon they can get on the podium for sure. They've got such a lovely mix of Opals debutantes, World Cup debutantes, and experienced Opals players. It's such a a big spectrum of experience at this, kind of world stage, that they're all going to offer something a little bit different. That you've got Annalie Maley making her debut.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, she's going to. I mean, I won't expect her to play a lot of minutes, but the minutes she plays, we can expect her to inject so much energy off the bench and so much intensity. So she'll be someone who if we get into a game, against Serbia and we might be in a little bit of a defensive lull, or we need something to spark what's happening on the court, you can put someone like Malian and expect her to have a direct impact onto the game. But LJ is probably someone who also realistically will probably play limited minutes. I think they're going to be really smart with how much LJ plays, when she plays, who she plays against. So probably against teams like Mali, we won't expect LJ to play lots of minutes because we've got to try and manage her rest and recovery throughout the whole tournament. Because essentially the schedule is pretty tough as well. It's basically a game a day, very few rest days in between. Having the death group means that they're very tough games every day. But I think LJ, just her presence is a massive X factor for the Opals. Just having her in the squad, whether she's on the court, off the court, she's going to keep instilling that positive culture that the Opals needed after the drama that was the Tokyo Olympics, etc., she who shall not be named. But just recuperating that culture, being an anchor for the team with her presence, I think that's already LJ's job half done in this Opal squad. And she's played with Tolo before, she's played with Kayla George before, she's played with a lot of these people before in bits and pieces, and she's someone who could easily slot into any kind of team dynamic and know her role well. And she's not someone who's going to be expecting so many touches and so many shots. She's going to have put the team first and her stats second. So I think that's also a really good example to be setting for the Opals squad and the culture in the future as well. But yeah, podium finish, defensive first. There's going to be a lot of eyes on our guards as well, because we don't have typically a sound point guard. Tokyo, we had Leilani Mitchell, Tessa Levy, and they're, bread and butter point guards. It's going to be this time split between Christy Wallace and Sammy Whitcomb, and both can play point guard, but both are also more effective when they're playing a shooting guard. So it's going to be interesting with their rotations of how they're going to share that load as well.
Yeah, terrific. Thanks, Jacinta. Now, you're a huge ambassador for not just basketball, but women's basketball, and having a World Cup in New South Wales is a big thing, right? So what are you going to tell to everyone here and in the general public who's listening to this about getting out there and supporting the game here?
Buy a ticket. There are tickets for individual games. There are tickets for all day. There are tickets for double headers at affordable prices, at school holidays. So bring your kids. It really can be a once in a lifetime opportunity. We've been really lucky that it's come back to Sydney. It was in Sydney in 1994. So we're very lucky it's come back to Sydney, and if you're a real basketball fan or the kids need something to do, it's a perfect opportunity to come and participate. It's all in one area. There's going to be lots of other activities and things to engage with in between games in the Homebush, complex. But that's the best way that we can support any kind of sport is to buy a ticket and turn up. Bring your friends and make a day of it. And you're guaranteed that the games are going to be quality. It's not going to be a gamble of, if we went to the NBL Blitz, it's the gamble of, are they going to play the bench? Who's going to be injured? Who's going to be on minute restrictions? This is guaranteed. People are going for a World Cup championship. You're guaranteed they're going to be great games every time. Everyone's going to be playing their heart out. And we're the host nation. So it's not every day that A, the team and the Opals get to play on home soil, but B, it's not every day we get to see them play every day on home soil. So you just take the opportunity as much as you can.
Well said, Squin. Yeah, even families get out there, right? And support the game. Okay, so before we just finish up here, I wanted to say congratulations to both you two with the work you've done with the NBL1 in the off-season. Squin, you had the opportunity to go to the national championships and call the game there. So, maybe I'll throw over to you, Robbie, man. Do you want to speak on that and take it away?
Yeah, look, it was a real honour, doing my stuff this year for the Hills Hornets. I wasn't able to sort of do any of those finals games out at Castle Hill, unfortunately. I was sort of running solo at home, just looking after my daughter. But no, it was great. It's given me a lot sort of greater appreciation, probably firstly for the women's game as well. I've probably been that traditional, ginormous basketball fan that, pretty much all they watches is NBL, NBA sort of thing. So that kind of opened my eyes up a bit. And as I sort of mentioned a few times, I really got behind the WNBA playoffs this year. So really enjoyed that sort of part, and just sort of getting to meet some of these people, getting to meet Lauren Jackson and, just some of these fringe sort of NBL, guys that have sort of played in the past, or some older guys and that. But yeah, really enjoyed doing it. Feel like I improved a lot, but I've still got, miles to go sort of thing. I remember those first few nights going out there when I was really had that nervous energy going. It sort of felt a little bit second nature by the end of it sort of thing. But no, that was probably my experience. But what about yourself, Jacinta? How did you find the season?
It was interesting. Commentating for Central Coast Crusaders for me is just like having a chat with a friend, because I've been so ingrained with the club and Crusaders forever. That it's kind of the stuff, if I was in the stands, I'd be saying to someone nonetheless, so I may as well put it to good use. But it was up and down for the Crusaders, so sometimes that made commentating a bit tricky, especially if there were any blowouts. It was really hard sometimes to find the line between commentator and fan, especially when sometimes the games were getting a little bit out of hand and the referees really needed to rein it in. There were a couple of games at the end of the men's season that were getting quite dangerous, and we have to be completely neutral, not say anything bad about the referee. So finding creative ways to say that something needed to change for safety was very interesting. But the NBL1 Nationals was, I'm still really proud that I got picked for that, because I was the only female commentator out of 8 people that were picked to go, and apparently they were inundated with applications for commentators. So I was really, really proud that I got to go, and it was way better than I was expecting it to be. I worked with a lot of really great other commentators from other states, so that they're going to make me a bit more accountable to pick up my game a little bit as well, and room for improvement, because I think I got a little bit too comfortable with Crusaders. Me and Hamish have a good rapport. I'm able to do the colour all the time, which I'm most comfortable doing, rather than the play-by-play. But doing the same team every week, you get a little bit too comfortable. So Nationals was a really, really good challenge in that respect too. I'm just going to plug in my laptop for a second.
Hey, Jacinta, I know you can still hear me while you're doing that. How did you find doing solo games? I had quite a few games out at Hills where the other commentator wasn't available, so you're sort of doing the colour and the play-by-play. How did you find sort of, solo games? I know you've done that obviously with some of the junior championships as well lately.
Yeah, so I did some games solo when I did some junior FIBA games, and that setup is it's cast on your laptop. It's the middle of the night, Australia time. So some games I did was like 2 a.m., 4 a.m. when I was doing those FIBA Africa Women's Championships. It's really hard. It's hard to find a fine balance between play-by-play and colour when you're by yourself, because you don't have anyone to bounce off. You don't have anyone to bounce off in terms of creating some humour and some dialogue either. But the play-by-play when you're by yourself, especially doing a team you don't know very well, is quite difficult, just to get used to who is who. Getting the names down pat. Some names are quite difficult, like the team from Madagascar was.
No, I can imagine.
Wow, yeah, that was very challenging. But I prefer doing colour than play-by-play. I can do play-by-play if I need to, but doing both is definitely really challenging. Yeah. What role did you take, Robbie? Were you play-by-play or were you colour?
I was the colour guy sort of thing, so that was probably well suited for me. The other guy that I was working with is not really a basketball guy. He's more like an MC sort of guy, so we sort of combined those. But yeah, I found it sort of, I think Liam Santa Maria, I had a chat with him before I did my first solo one. He was saying, don't feel like you've got to talk the whole time just because you're by yourself. Let the sounds of, the whistle and the shoes squeaking and the ball bouncing, and let some of that sort of fill it up. So that probably helped as well, rather than think you've just got to keep talking. But good call what you said before as well. There's no sort of humour and other sort of things like that. I like sort of throwing a bit of that into there when you've got another commentator. So it is a bit hard to make a joke to yourself, I guess. But yeah.
When I did the FIBA games, we had to engage with the FIBA, like the YouTube live stream, like the live chat. We had to engage with that. So that sometimes gave me a point of someone I could bounce back and forth with, positive or negative. So that was helpful in that respect. But I think what Liam's advice to you is really sound. I try and focus on quality rather than quantity. Quality rather than quantity, especially when I'm providing the colour. Because I learnt NBL1 East finals, I commentated with someone new who I hadn't commentated with before. And I did ask at the start, do you want to do play-by-play or colour? And they said, oh, let's just do whatever and see how it goes. And they spoke the whole time.
See, I could have been there, Jacinta. I could have been in my normal chair. We could have been side by side doing that. I reckon we would have had a good rapport there. But yeah, next time, right?
Next time, for sure. But yeah, I definitely try and focus on quality over quantity. So what Liam said is really sound advice. But are you going to do it next year, Robbie?
Definitely, yeah. They've already started talking about it. We actually went to the presentation night, like the Senior Presentation Awards on Saturday. So that was good. They got me up on stage and presented me. I didn't even tell you that. Once they presented me with like a T-shirt and took some photos and stuff. So that was really good. And I can't wait for April for it all to start again next year and get back into it.
Yeah, that's awesome. What do you feel like you're planning to focus on next season now that you've got one season under your belt?
Probably a few more production things. So I want to get maybe some interviews with a coach or a player, either half-time or full-time or both. That'd probably be one thing. Probably just continuing to define the roles that I'm doing with the other guy and just, continuing to do that research. Probably that was one thing. If I'm, can be critical. Sometimes we would talk over each other a little bit. It's sort of, I think like Woody and I found with the podcast, looking for that pause, body language, those sort of things when someone's about to sort of stop what they're saying and then sort of start talking then. But yeah, that's probably the main areas of focus, I guess.
No, that sounds really good. I'm excited for you. I'm so glad that you enjoy it.
So fun. Yeah. So good. It doesn't feel like work, does it? Like you said, you got the best seat in the house, like calling the game we love sort of thing. It's great.
Yeah.
Well, as two friends of mine, really proud of you guys and giving back to the basketball community has been amazing. Jacinta, you spoke of having so many different applications to have that opportunity to go do the national championship day. For you to get it, that's just testament to the hard work and dedication you put into the job. They didn't pick you for no reason, so well done.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was definitely a highlight of the year, I think.
Awesome. Well, it's been a really good show. We've got through a lot today. The content's been terrific. Jacinta, just amazing. Your knowledge and speaking on the Women's World Cup has been great. And thanks for all the research and work you did and contributed to our JackJumpers conversation as well. That was brilliant, right?
Oh yeah, no worries. I wanted to make sure I brought my A game with you guys because you guys are both like two halves of the basketball world encyclopedia. Like libraries that can be accessed. So I'm like, I gotta bring my A game today.
You brought your A game, sister. You did. All right. So quickly, just a correction from last week. I put it on Twitter. I did say Robert Parrish averaged 14-point-something points a game in his last season. That was wrong. I apologize. My bad. We pride ourselves on being encyclopedias and getting all our facts right. Yeah, it's just said. So just call that one out. Now, as I said earlier in the show, please follow us wherever you do. It's been great. We've been getting a lot of views on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Appreciate everyone's support. Robbie, take it away.
Yeah, so just the usual Twitter shout out at Throwback Hoops. Check us out on Instagram. We're throwback.hoops. And of course our email address, throwbackhoopspodcast@gmail.com.
Cool. No worries. And Patreon, if you want to support us, please jump on there. Look for Throwback Hoops. We'd appreciate your support. Squin, your plug.
So I'm actually, for those who don't know, I'm actually a co-host of a women's basketball podcast called Shooting the Breeze. So you can find us on Twitter at The Breeze Pod, and you can also find us on Instagram. That's just Shooting the Breeze. And for my personal handles on Twitter, I'm S_Squin, which is SQUIN. And on Instagram, I'm just Jacinta_Govind because I like to give the internet all of my names.
Awesome. Well, it's been great, guys. I'm really looking forward to the next few weeks. A lot of exciting times ahead in the basketball world. Any final thoughts?
No, I think like Jacinta said, I guess you get out and support these games, right? You said it a lot better than me, though.
No, absolutely. Buy a ticket, buy a singlet, post it on social media, bring your friends to come. Any point of exposure you can think of to support. And this isn't just for the Women's World Cup that's starting tomorrow. This is for any team that you support, your friends you support. Anything that you feel like is worth shouting about, just make sure it's known, because I don't think as people or as fans we do enough to say how much we appreciate people and how much we need to celebrate each other. So post it, like it, comment on it, invite your friends, buy the merch, buy the ticket, just go for it.
Well said. Thanks, Jacinta. Thanks, Robbie. From the Throwback Hoops crew, we're out. See you next week.
Peace out.